Please welcome Secretary Castro.
Thank you very much, Preston, for that very kind introduction and for the great work that you're doing as president. And thank you as well, Steve, for the fantastic work that I know you're doing. And I want to especially thank your CEO, Saul Ramirez, for his outstanding contributions. Of course, Saul is a fellow Texan, and so I'm going to need to get your advice on where to find some good barbecue around here. You know, I'm new to D.C. I've only been on the job about 2.5 months, and I've learned two things about D.C. One is that it's hard to get good iced tea, and the other is it's hard to get good barbecue. In fact, about a month ago now, my wife Erica and I and our daughter Karina were out at this barbecue place called Fat Pete's, which is in the Cleveland Park neighborhood of Washington, and everything was going great. You know, I had some smoked turkey, and they brought out the barbecue sauce, and they had like 5 bottles that they said represented the barbecue sauces of different states. And I told my wife, I told Erica, oh, you know, we're going to have to come back. And then I realized on the intercom, instead of Willie Nelson or Garth Brooks, they were playing Pearl Jam at a barbecue place. So I've learned that things are a little bit different here in D.C. But I know that we have folks from throughout the United States here today, and also some folks visiting us from outside the United States. Who's here from California? Is anybody here from California? All right. How about New York? Anybody here from Florida? What about anybody here from Idaho? Wow. Usually I just get like one person in the back of the room. What about the great state of Texas? All right, well, to all of those that are here as part of this NAHRO conference from throughout our nation, and also to our visitors, thank you so much for the work that you are doing across our country to extend the baton of opportunity to Americans of all stripes, and to help ensure that the American dream lives on because of your work and the work of your organization. I want to just say thank you to the Board of Governors of NAHRO and acknowledge the award recipients and fellows who were honored earlier for their contributions. As I mentioned, I'm fairly early in my role as HUD Secretary. In fact, this is my 81st day on the job, not that anybody's counting. But as you can imagine, it was quite a tough decision for my family and for me in deciding to leave our home in San Antonio. But when President Obama called to ask me if I would be interested in taking on this role, I felt very compelled to make this big move because throughout my life, I have been blessed with opportunity, like I know you have, and I feel a deep obligation to help pass on a baton of opportunity myself to others. And I'm also convinced that just because a man or a woman, a child or a senior, lives in poverty or in a low-income area, that should not define the horizon of their dreams, that all of us dream big dreams, and that you and I have the opportunity through our work to help make the dreams of so many Americans come true. And I'm convinced that HUD has the ability to be a big help. Thank you. You see, HUD is the Department of Opportunity. It plays a unique and powerful role in helping folks better their lives. Housing, as you know, is more than just bricks and mortar. It's also a platform to greater economic, educational, and health outcomes. I know this from professional experience and also from personal experience. I grew up on the west side of San Antonio in a neighborhood of hardworking families of modest means. My father lived in public housing for a brief time in his life, and my mother worked at the San Antonio Housing Authority for several years. I've seen with my own eyes now how housing and neighborhoods can directly impact families and their futures. And that's why I'm pleased to work with you to turn communities with obstacles into communities with opportunity. And over the next 2 years, I'm going to stand shoulder to shoulder with you to fight for the most vulnerable Americans. The good news is that we come together at a time when our economy is growing again. In the last 55 months, businesses have created 10.3 million new jobs. That's the longest streak of private sector job growth in recorded American history. The unemployment rate is at its lowest level in 6 years. And our challenge now is to keep that momentum going. And that's why, as you know, President Obama is out there working to raise the minimum wage so that hard work is rewarded for all Americans. Trying to make it easier for young people to pay off their student loans and advocating for fair pay and better employment conditions so that folks can work with the respect and the dignity that they deserve. And I assure you that HUD will do its part to secure opportunity for all Americans, and affordable housing is at the heart of that agenda. According to the latest numbers from Harvard, 28% of renters pay more than half of their income for housing. This especially hurts the poor. More than 70% of families earning less than $15,000 a year are severely cost-burdened. Imagine the stress of knowing that 1 out of every $2 in your paycheck must go just to keeping a roof over your head, and all the sacrifices that families are making to survive under these conditions. It's clear that affordable housing should be a top national priority. And of course, the great irony is that as needs are going up, resources are going down. As you know, critical programs like home and CDBG have been hit hard in recent budgets. And to meet that challenge, I'm determined to improve the way HUD does business. I'd like for HUD to focus more on outcomes, not only inputs. I believe that we shouldn't just track projects and dollars spent, but we must measure those investments by the impact they make in the lives of the people that we serve. With this evidence-based approach, we can make a powerful case about why HUD resources are so important to the American people. And with this data in hand, I promise to fight for every budget dollar in the future so that all of us across the United States can increase our impact. Like you, though, I also know that we can't just sit around and wait for future budgets. There's important work to do right now. And that's why our team is looking to reform current initiatives and make them more effective for the people we serve. One example of this is our housing choice vouchers. I know that many of you have felt that administering this program is too complex and burdensome. HUD has actively sought the help of community leaders to reduce these burdens, and I want to thank NAHRO for making your voice heard. Last year, we published a notice that gave public housing authorities more flexibility when delivering rental assistance to families. It allowed HUD-assisted households to self-certify if they had assets less than $5,000. It gave PHAs the option of streamlining annual reexaminations for elderly and for disabled families who live on fixed incomes. These changes immediately relieved thousands of public housing authorities and tenants of reporting requirements that were having little impact on their tenancy, but constituted a lot of red tape. In looking to the future, we've developed a proposed rule to provide further administrative relief, which will be released for comment by the end of the year. I promise you that we'll continue to improve on these issues, because when you do better, your communities do better, and Americans do better because of it. I also know that some are concerned that our focus on RAD has made us lose sight of public housing properties, and this simply isn't true. We know that enhancing the entire portfolio is critical to meeting the affordable housing challenges before us. That's why we've proposed legislative, programmatic, and administrative tools to enhance our housing stock. For example, administratively, we're making permanent the notice I talked about earlier to give you the flexibility you need for the future. Legislatively, in HUD's fiscal year 2015 budget, we've proposed a pilot program incentivizing public housing authorities to undertake energy conservation measures that would benefit both the bottom line and the common good. With efforts like choice neighborhoods and capital fund financing, we've provided new support to help redevelop and rehabilitate public housing. Across the board, our commitment to all our public housing units is strong, and it will be unwavering in the years to come. I also want to be straightforward, though, that we believe that done right, that RAD represents a smart model for the future. As you know, there's currently a backlog of roughly $26 billion in capital needs in our public housing stock. Communities are wondering how they can preserve their public housing in this tough fiscal and legislative climate. And for many, RAD is the answer because it attracts private sector investment. We've received applications to convert over 180,000 units of public housing, but we're in danger of losing momentum because our current authority is limited to 60,000 units. We've asked Congress to lift the cap in our fiscal year 2015 budget request, but we know that this is just one part of the answer. Our affordable housing crisis is growing. RAD is one solution, but it is not the only solution. In addition, we believe that it's time to equip the National Housing Trust Fund with resources. Housing finance reform efforts have proposed dedicating billions of dollars every year to the fund to produce more affordable housing. This is an unprecedented opportunity that we can't afford to waste, and another reason why this administration is going to keep fighting for reform. Of course, housing is also just one part of the opportunity equation. The second part is linking this housing to the job opportunities that folks need to thrive. Housing should be a springboard to success, which is why I've made boosting access to employment one of my top priorities. Take, for example, our Family Self-Sufficiency Initiative. As you know, this effort links public housing residents with the education, job training, and other services they need to help build assets and to improve their lives. This work is making a difference. In fact, in a few years, one of our PIH staff members, a few years ago, one of our PIH staff members was at a hospital and began chatting with the head nurse there. It turned out that she used to live in local public housing, and she credited the FSS effort with launching her career. These outcomes are occurring across the country, and you see them each and every day. And that's why we recently awarded another $75 million to 730 public housing authorities to help more folks begin a new chapter in life. These initiatives, those that seek to match the folks that we serve with greater opportunity in life, are right at the very heart of what matters to me as Secretary. I remember in my own life the day that my brother Joaquin and I received our packet to attend college, our letter of admission. My brother, myself, my mother, and my grandmother that we grew up with were so happy that he and I had gotten into Stanford University. And then 2 weeks later, we got the bill. And it wasn't quite as happy a day. The only reason that I can stand here before you is because I worked hard and my family worked hard, but also because you worked hard for us. You see, there were Pell Grants and Perkins loans and federal work study so that we could work during college and get that education. Our nation has always been greatest when it has expected hard work and responsibility from individuals and from families, but when it has matched that responsibility with opportunity. That's what we want to do at HUD, and that's what I know that you are doing each and every day through your own work. Through all of HUD's efforts, we're working to give folks the tools that they need to be successful. And 2 years from now, when I leave as secretary, I will measure our progress by just one standard. How much did we increase opportunity for those people that we serve? I know that a key factor to our success is supporting community leaders like you. I've spent the last 2.5 months traveling the nation to our field offices and regional offices, visiting investments that local communities have made and speaking with residents who live in public housing and permanent supportive housing, folks whose lives are stronger or on a better trajectory because of your work. And as a former mayor, I know that progress and innovation often starts from the ground up, that the local level is where things actually get done in the year 2014. And so I look forward to working with you over the next 2 years to do just that, to get things done. Folks deserve a chance, no matter what their station is in life. Let's fight to give them that chance. Let's fight to ensure that the voices of the most vulnerable are heard. Let's fight to give every person access to decent, affordable, quality housing. Let's fight to connect this housing to the jobs and schools families need to thrive. Closing the opportunity gap is one of the defining challenges of our time, but I know through your great work, through your leadership, through our vision, and through our collaboration that we can meet that challenge for this generation and the next. Thank you very much.
What did we learn yesterday? Viva Julian Castro, viva! Let's try it again. Viva Julian Castro, viva!